everyone, welcome back to Gdaynamaste. Today I am actually going to be talking about culture shocks that I've experienced here. So both from when I came on vacation, or came for vacation, sorry, and also things that I've experienced that might be seen as culture shocks, but also might more just be like just difference between countries. So differences between Australia and India of things that I've encountered. I will just preface this by saying, again, this is my own experience, or these are my own experiences. Might not happen for everyone. They might not happen to everyone, might not happen in different parts of India. Maybe these things are just in North, I don't know. These are just my experiences. And I will be doing a video of things I love about India as well. So I don't want people to think that I'm just talking about all these weird or different experiences I've had here. There are many things that I do love, but that will be in a separate video. So. If you haven't watched my very first video of my introduction, I'll link it up top. Tiger is shaking the camera. My very first time I came to India was at the end of 2013. So I was 23, I came right at the end of 2013 and I stayed for 4 months. And that was my first time in India. So yes, most of the culture shocks I experienced happened in that first trip. But basically, one of the first things that I kind of noticed, and I was pre-warned about, was actually the pollution. So one of my friends had actually said to me, when you land in Delhi airport, there's probably going to be this smell. It's going to smell like fireworks. That's the pollution. So when I was landing in Delhi, it was about 8:30 at night, and yes, I smelt the same smell as fireworks, and you could actually see like the smog when you were landing. It was December, so it was winter. So yeah, that was something that, even though I was warned about and had anticipated, it's not something that I was super prepared for, and it is something that really did kind of shock me too. Leading off the pollution side is, I guess, the lack of garbage collection. Oh, hey. You know, it's very normal to just throw your trash on the street. Even if there's garbage bins around, things get thrown on the road, outside the windows. There is no like weekly rubbish collection like there is like in Australia or other countries. So yeah, that was something that was kind of shocking for me to see people. Are you right? To see people throwing trash out the window. That was like, and it's still something that shocks me a lot too. The fact that, yeah, it's just so easily doable for a lot of people. And, you know, for example, in Australia, you can actually get a fine or a challan for those people in India if you get caught throwing rubbish or cigarette butts out your window. So yeah, I will always collect my rubbish in the car and put it in a bin. It's something that still kind of does shock me in a way, is, yeah, the rubbish just being thrown out here, there and everywhere. Okay, so in my very first trip, we, you know, traveled around Delhi, we went to Jaipur, did some sightseeing, and we actually stayed in hotels. So I didn't know about the whole cup and bucket shower situation, which I wasn't also explained either. So after Jaipur, we were on our way to Punjab, and we stopped midway for a night in a dhaba. So a dhaba is kind of like a roadside stop. So it's kind of like a motel with like an eatery and things like that. So we stayed at this random dhaba, and oh my god, the rooms were dirty. There was no hot water. I didn't know about the geyser situation either, so that's another thing that was kind of a shock, is that there's in a lot of places, not everywhere, there's no continuous hot water. You need to switch on like the hot water system. And I wasn't told about that, and the place where we stayed, it wasn't working anyway. So We stayed in this place. It was winter, it was cold, it was dirty. The bathroom was so disgusting. There was like poop still in the toilet, like on the back. So there was skid marks in the toilet and like human pubes like on the toilet seat. And I just started crying. I was like, what is this? And there was also the cup and bucket. So there was no shower head. There was like the bucket and a cup that you wash yourself with. So I guess that's like to conserve water. And like I understand that now, but at the time I was kind of shocked. Like, I just want to have a hot shower, I'm cold, this bathroom's dirty, and I have like this cup and bucket to wash myself with cold water. Like, what is going on? So at that point, I think we'd been traveling for like 5 or 6 days, and I really started to question, like, what have I done? What am I doing? Because I was staying in India for like 4 or 5 months. Another thing that was quite confronting for me was I guess the poverty. You know, there's poverty in every country. It definitely happens in Australia. Homelessness is a big issue and concern in Australia. It's not as in your face though. So in India, there is a very big difference between the very rich and the very poor. And it's noticeable, you can see it. You see the poor people or the less, the less well-off people outside. They're the ones that are working those jobs that people don't want to be working. They're the ones that are working on a daily wage. They're the ones begging on the road or the side of the roads, waiting outside hotels, waiting outside restaurants for people and trying to sell random things. So I didn't know about this, and so every time we had like a child come to our car window, I would feel like really sad, like, you know, like this poor child who's begging in the middle of winter on the side of the road. So I just wanted to give them like some coins. So I think I gave them something like, I don't know, 1 or 2 rupee coins. And they threw it back at me through the window because it wasn't enough. And I was like, what the hell? Was not expecting that, because I thought, like, you know, we just have some loose change, I'll just give that to them. And then like later I found out that a lot of the time these are kind of like scams or, you know, I guess, like begging kind of rings and things like that. So yeah, I mean, it still happens now, but you know, Sunil's like really selective with who he gives money to. Usually he gives it to people who, you know, are either physically disabled and are unable to work, and you know, this is the way that they're earning money, or if there's like really elderly people. We did actually see this, we saw this one kid once, and he was going around like, this was in our market, this was like in winter this year, I think, and he was going around the market like limping to try and ask for money. And so he went from car to car trying to get money for food because, you know, he can't walk properly. And then when he finished doing the rounds of the cars, I looked behind and he started running. He started running back to wherever he was from, and he was walking normally. So it's, you know, it's really hard in these kind of situations because you want to do the right thing and you want to like help people and you want to try and, you know, you just want to help in whatever way possible. But then at the same time, you don't want to be taken advantage of, and you don't know who is genuine and who's not. So that's a really tough decision to be in. And you kind of get to the point sometimes where you do just get used to it, and you get used to saying to people like, we don't have anything, and we never have cash on us anyway, like everything's online. So we never really have cash. But leads on to my next point, which still happens now, and it's something that was kind of a bit of a culture shock for me at the beginning, is that people see white and automatically assume rich. That's not always the case. So yeah, that's how I sort of felt when I got the coins thrown back in my face when I first came here back in 2013/14, is that, yeah, people automatically assume that because you're white, you have so much money that Sunil's only with me for all this money. And yeah, it's a common misconception. I had someone reply to one of my Instagram stories one night because I said I was like taking Sunil out for dinner because we take turns. The time before he took me out, so this time it was my turn. And they replied back saying, like, of course you're taking him out, don't you pay for everything? Like, isn't he like with you for your money or something ridiculous like that? These things happen in any sort of non-conventional relationship. People just automatically assume that there's an ulterior motive, whether there's a big age gap, whether it's like intercultural, interracial, especially between like a white person and someone from like a non-white country. It happens, and you kind of just get used to it. All right, randoms asking for photos. This happened a little bit my first few trips. It happened a lot when my family came to visit, when they came here when we got married. And yeah, people would come up and just either ask for photos or not even ask and just shove their phone in your face to take photos. We were in Amritsar and this lady came up and gave me her baby to hold while they took a photo. Didn't even ask her anything, they just wanted me to hold their baby while they got a photo of me holding their baby. It was funny at first. After a while, it gets really, really frustrating and annoying, and you just learn to say no. And unfortunately, sometimes people don't respect those boundaries. If you say no, they still try and take photos. But yeah, it's something that happens a lot, and I think most foreigners will tell you that it does happen. You know, it's okay to ask. I think it's very, very polite to ask someone, can I take your photo? But just respect if they say, like, respect their decision if they say yes or no, and don't just like put your phone in their face or take sneaky photos from afar. That's really, really rude and disrespectful. Another shock that I experienced when I first came here was the squat toilet. So, you know, my whole life I spent in Australia, I only ever knew Western toilets. A squat toilet was very interesting for me, and yeah, you know, I've used them before, and like if that's the only thing available, I'll use it. But yeah, using the squat toilet, and also toilet paper is not a thing here. So having like, I forget the name of it, I don't know, but anyway, like you can have the hose connected, the spray hose connected to like clean yourself. Sometimes there's like, oh, a bidet, yeah. Sometimes there's like the hose connected to the back of the toilet. Sometimes there's a cup and bucket in there next to the toilet, where you clean yourself with the cup, and there's a bucket full of water. So these are things that, again, very, very different for me, but you just have to adapt, especially if it's the only toilet available. You kind of just have to make do. But something that is very, very, very hard to do with a squat toilet is squat on a moving train when you're wearing like Indian outfit or like salwar kameez. That's happened to me before, and it was really hard. I had to kind of like hold my pants up, try and squat and pee while I had like my chunni was like wrapped around my head and I'm holding up the top like while the train's moving. So that was really, really hard. Again, you just have to make do because it was the only toilet available. And it was also very, very dirty because we got on the train in Delhi and it was like already halfway through its trip and it hadn't got cleaned. So the cleanliness is something that I guess is also very different compared to what I'm used to. And yeah, you just carry a lot of hand sanitizer and, you know, face wipes or hand wipes and things, and it's fine. Something that is very common that you'll see here, which I guess does happen in also like in Western countries, like I've seen it happen a lot in Australia, is just like men peeing on the side of the road. Actually, just even peeing in general. I've been outside the Lotus Temple in Delhi and I saw a woman like squatting and peeing right outside the line, the foreigners, like the entry line to the temple. I do understand that some of these people, you know, they probably don't have any homes, and you know that where they got to go, when they have to go, right? Again, it's just something that was a bit confronting for me because I'd never experienced or seen that before. But mostly you do see men just stopping over anywhere, day, night, middle of a busy road, and they'll just be peeing on the side of the road. But when was it? We were going somewhere. Oh, we were picking my mum up from the airport, and we took this like back road through the village, through some village. It was a single lane, and there was an auto pulled over, an auto rickshaw, and it was full of people, and the driver had gotten out to pee. and he's peeing in this open field, not even behind a tree or anything, and he's just holding himself and peeing. And like, we kind of like made this awkward eye contact, and he's just like there holding himself peeing, and then we make eye contact for a few seconds, and then it was like, oh my god, what did I just see? And then we just started laughing. Like, yeah, it's just when you gotta go, you gotta go. So I guess like a lot of these experiences, yes, they were culture shocks when I first visited here, and they still happen now, but they're not as kind of shocking for me. But I still kind of get a bit surprised when it happens, like the peeing on the side of the road, or coming across a squat toilet, or something that might be of different cleanliness standards compared to like what I know. But moving on to culture shocks I had after I moved here. Living here, and I have talked about this in my first video as well, living here and being on vacation are two very, very different things. And it's something that I wasn't prepared for. I didn't plan for that. I felt like I was really planned and prepared for nearly everything when moving here, but I wasn't prepared for the difference in living here versus like being on vacation. So there were some things that I started to notice over time as well. And probably the biggest thing, which like really, really makes me sad, is the treatment of animals. So, you know, India has a stray dog problem. Tiger is a Desi rescue, so we rescued him at 4 weeks old. So he's an Indian dog that we rescued. But yeah, there is a really, really, really big street dog problem here. And for some reason, people just don't like dogs, or even some animals. Like, you know, there's animals everywhere. You see like a lot of cows, buffaloes, monkeys. In some places there's like cheetahs and jaguars, like in forest areas, but and cats too, but not as many cats compared to dogs. So like the treatment of animals, like I can't even like begin to explain. Like people throw stones on dogs, they hit them with sticks. They do a lot of other things that I don't want to like talk about, because it's actually really, really disgusting and really horrifying. So that is something that's very confronting. And after rescuing Tiger and deciding to adopt him, I started to really take more notice about these things, because I was following like animal adoption pages around my city, and, you know, NGOs and non-profit organizations that do help stray animals. So it did make me more aware to how animals are treated. Even, you know, chickens on the side of, like, chickens are crammed into cages on the side of the road and then like killed for consumption. Cows, the way they treat cows for dairy, like I don't think it's regulated compared to like other countries. There's just no regulation and they're treated terribly. And that's actually one of the reasons why I decided to stop eating meat. So I've spoken about this before. I'm technically pescatarian. I still eat eggs. I have seafood on the odd occasion, but mostly I eat vegetarian, Western style vegetarian, because I have eggs every day. But yeah, that's one of the main reasons why I did decide to basically cut meat out of my diet, because I couldn't do it. You know, it was pouring rain one night and we were sitting in the car outside. I think Sunil was getting some groceries, and there was a buffalo standing in the rain, standing under a shelter outside a shop to be out of the rain. And some security guard comes out with a stick and starts hitting him just to get the buffalo out of the way. And I start like beeping my horn at him. You know, he just wanted to stay dry. So yeah, it's like really, really sad. And you know, if we do ever see like mistreatment of animals, like I don't think we have it all. I think there was one incident and like Sunil just shouted at them to stop. Yeah, it is something that's really, I feel like my list of differences between Australia and India / culture shocks for living here is really long because things are just so different. Indians, I don't mean all Indians, but like Indians that I have been around, I have noticed tend to talk over one another, don't let the other people finish, or like finish each other's sentences, and they talk very, very, very loudly. And I am also someone that talks very loudly normally anyway, and I used to get into trouble as a kid for talking really loud, like stop shouting when I thought I was talking normally. But yeah, it's really common here. And it's something that's very different, because in Australia we used to get in trouble as kids for like interrupting someone when they were talking or talking too loudly, like I just said. And so it's kind of considered really, really rude. So that is something that I was really, really shocked with when I came, because I used to like kind of be made to feel that I wasn't important enough to be listened to. And it is also an insecurity of mine as well, because it is something that I used to get told from childhood, even to when I was an adult, that I used to talk too much, I talk too loud, don't I ever shut up, don't I have an off button, like all of these things. So that has really affected me as an adult now, that when people don't listen to what I'm saying when I'm talking, or if people are playing on their phone, or you know, if people say that I talk too much, it like really triggers me, because, you know, childhood insecurities, and I also feel it's rude. So that's all obviously a me problem as well. So I'm trying to like work through those issues myself, but there's still like situations where I do think it's rude still, and I will say if it's rude, or if I feel like it's rude, or if I feel like offended by it. Things open very, very, very late here. Like 10:30 is the opening time for a lot of places, like malls, cafes, restaurants. Sometimes it's even later, like 11. In Australia, in the city, cafes open at 6 a.m. to like cater for the city workers. Otherwise, you know, 7 or 8 o'clock is very normal. So because of that, breakfast culture is not really a thing here, which is really sad, because I love breakfast culture, like brunch culture in Australia. Like I used to love meeting up with friends on the weekend for breakfast, having coffee and something to eat. And there's just no real culture like that here, not in Chandigarh anyway, like unless you want to go get something to eat at like 11 o'clock. But I used to love going for walks on the weekend with my friends, you know, like 7 or 8 o'clock in the morning, and then have breakfast afterwards. But yeah, it's not really a thing. You know, late night coffee catch-ups is much more common. It's more of a later started, like a late rising country, I guess. People like to get up late and stay up late. So that was something that was very different for me. Also, in Australia, I used to go to bed at like 9:30, 10 o'clock, wake up at 6, go to work. I would have dinner at 6 o'clock at night. But here, I go to bed at like midnight, wake up at 8, and I eat dinner at like 9:30, 10. So, which I did talk about a bit in my video last week about like what I eat in a day. So yeah, that's another thing that also is really, really, really different. I guess it just also depends on the rest of your family when they eat, what their schedule's like. You know, like Sunil goes to bed after me, he wakes up later. Because he goes to bed later, like it's okay for him to have a late dinner. But I have my Hindi classes at 9 o'clock in the morning, so I wake up early to like do my own things. So I start my day earlier. So it does get a little bit hard for me eating so late. And it's also not very good for your body, for digestion, to be like eating dinner and then sleeping straight away. Let's talk about power outages. So I'm not sure if anyone had saw one of my YouTube shorts. I also did it as an Instagram reel of like what's something that's common in India that might be seen as a bit weird in Western countries. Yeah, it's very common just for the power to come and go, especially in summer here. The power grid tends to, you know, be overwhelmed and there's not enough electricity to go around. So they will like turn it off, let it power up, or turn it off during the day and have it running at night. No, it's a normal thing. I'm used to it now. It's been like, this is my 4th summer here. In our old apartment, the apartment complex had a 24-hour generator. So when the electricity went out, after a few seconds, the generator would kick in and we would always have power. But this society is still getting built up, so they don't have a 24-hour generator yet. So we have what's called an inverter, which is like a battery backup. And I think it gives us like 7 or 8 hours of power as the backup, yeah. So yeah, we have the inverter, but the inverter only runs like a few light switches around the apartment, fans, and that's kind of it. Lights, fans, and some electricity points. So it won't operate the aircon, the fridge, microwave, that sort of thing. So yeah, that's pretty difficult sometimes, especially like if you've had the power out for like 10 hours and then the battery dies of the inverter, which actually happened a few weeks ago at night. So it didn't come back on completely till like 5 a.m. So we just couldn't sleep because it was 32 degrees. We didn't have any fan, no aircon, there was no breeze coming through the doors either. So, you know, a lot of these things are very like normal, and you just adapt. You just adapt and go on. Because if you don't adapt to some of these things, if you don't get like thick skin, it's going to be very, very hard for you to, I guess, live comfortably here and be okay with that. Off the back of electricity, no central heating and like radiators and things. So I think the houses here are built, you know, with very, very thick concrete so that it keeps the houses cool in summer, so you don't have to be always constantly running aircon. Some people don't even have air cons. So, you know, the houses are built with very solid concrete, keeps it cool, but in winter, it's like an ice box. It is so cold inside. Yeah, sometimes it's actually colder inside than it is outside. But this apartment's great because it's so open, and in our living room, we have like a huge window and we get sun all day. So in winter, I just open up those curtains, sun comes in, we have sun on the balcony. Like there's a balcony at the back here. So we'll get morning sun here and then the sun crosses to the other side. So we get sun all the time, thankfully. But in our old apartment, like this much space of the back of our balcony got sun at like 3 o'clock in the afternoon for 30 minutes. So it was always cold. So yeah, you'd be like sitting on the couch with like 4 different blankets, or you'd sleep with like 2 or 3 different blankets because, you know, we didn't have heating. We've got, oh, you can't see, we've just got like box air conditioners rather than the split cycle. A lot, you know, some houses now are getting split cycle, which just means that you can use the heater in winter, which is really cool. But yeah, we don't have that. I have like a little electric heater that we use, like just in the living room and things. What's considered polite and what's considered rude here vary a lot compared to Australia. So in Australia, we say hello to everyone, our neighbours. Like I grew up on the beach, and if you're going for like a morning walk or run, you'd say hi to everyone you saw, even if you didn't know them. You'd say good morning, g'day, how are ya? And here, like if you if you did that to every second person, people would think you're either weird or like that you're interested in them. So I really had to like tone down that part of my personality in a way, because like you know, I was a bit scared that like people would take that the wrong way, or you know, I was also really nervous because of the language barrier as well. So you know, like our direct neighbors I'll say hello to, but yeah, if it's someone that I haven't seen before, or like someone strange, like I won't like say anything. On the road when you're driving in Australia, if you like if someone lets you in, you just like give a wave of thanks. You're driving like, thanks mate, keep going. Here you don't do that. And I remember once I was driving and someone let me in and I waved thank you, and Sunil was like, what the fuck was that? Like, I was like, I'm like saying thank you. He's like what for? So yeah, it's like really, really funny. Just like, you know, what's considered polite or rude. Sometimes even like simple things, saying thank you or sorry or please isn't also something that's not really common, especially in direct family, because it's seen as too polite. It's seen as like you're being too formal with family, and with family you're supposed to be relaxed. So saying please and thank you is like not a thing. But it is something that I have like really tried to teach Sunil to say, because when we eventually decide to have children, I really want them to have those manners and learn that side of things, because you know, they're going to be half Australian, right? So I want them to have those manners and learn that politeness, because they'll need that in Australia. Because I've been on the other side. I've been on the other side where like I've seen people of, you know, non-Australians who don't say please or thank you, and people get very offended because, you know, that's just, it's a polite thing. Even hearing bad news for a friend, you would say, I'm really sorry to hear that. It might be seen as formal, but it's appreciated. You know, I'm really sorry you went through that. I'm sorry to hear that, right? It's appreciated, even if it's from like, you know, your loved ones. So, yeah, a lot of miscommunication in our like marriage because of this difference in values or difference in what's considered polite or not polite. Also, talking about polite and not polite, people just comment randomly on other people's weight as if they're talking about the weather. And that's something that still shocks me. Like, it's happened to me a few times where I've had like someone say to me, oh, you've gained weight. And I'll say, and? Like, what about it? Or like, I saw the same woman like a few months later and she's like, are you okay? You look really sick. Like, you're too skinny. And it's like a few months ago, you just said I was overweight. Well, not that I was overweight, but you said I gained weight. And yeah, it's just like really, really common. I went into Dmart, which is like a supermarket here a few weeks ago, and like, you get security scan checked before you walk in. And the woman I've never even seen before, she's like, are you pregnant? I was like, why? Because my shirt's baggy. Like, yeah, it's just actually crazy. It really, really is crazy. So it's something that is very, very common, and people don't really consider it rude here. It's just like, oh, so casual, like you're talking like it's going to be a hot day today. Oh, you've gained weight, haven't you? That was a huge shock. Also, burping loudly in public. Burping loudly in public, and apparently farting in public is also something, because it just happened to us. We were out getting a coffee and there was like these two old guys behind us, and well, he was behind me, I was sitting here and he was right there, and apparently he's like lifted his leg up and he just lets one rip, and he just kept talking in his conversation. So I just like died, like, is he serious? Like, did that just happen? Yeah. But then blowing your nose in public is seen as rude. Like, make that make sense. Because I remember once I was sick and I was blowing my nose into a tissue outside, and I was like, stop it, like, that's rude. And I'm like, yeah, but what's stopping old mate like bloody like burping out loud after he's finished eating, or like burping and not covering their mouth, or like, you know, if you're going to burp in public, at least cover your mouth. So again, huge differences compared to Australia. So I don't mean to like sort of sound like I'm ripping on India or ripping on these things. Again, I just want to reiterate, it's just my experiences and these differences of cultures and differences of countries. So these are things that I've had to experience, I'm learning about, and then I'm kind of having to adapt and process. So I now know, you know, it's been 3 years now, and I've just like, I'm still learning. I think I'm always going to be learning because it's not my home country. So I'm always going to be learning things, and you just adapt. You know, you have an experience, you process it, you adapt, you move on, you have another experience, and you know, the cycle continues. So yeah, again, these are just things that have happened to me. I've had to process and think about, and then go on with my day. Another thing that's like just a bit different is like the washing machine. So not everyone has the fully automatic washing machine like we do in Australia. So fully automatic means that you put all your clothes in, put the washing powder in, turn it on, select your options, press start, it does everything. So it'll wash, drain, rinse, drain, spin, dry. It's very common to have a semi-automatic machine. I think it's like to save electricity and water, because with that, you can actually conserve a lot more water because you can control how much water goes in. Even though fully automatic, you have the different like low, medium, high, extra high. With the semi-automatic, yeah, you can still like control exactly the exact water levels. So I didn't know that like when I came on vacation once to visit Sunil, I didn't know he had a semi-automatic machine. And like I had said to him, like, I need to wash my clothes, let's just do washing now, and then it'll be finished when we get back from gym. And he's like, it's going to take like an hour, we don't have time, the gym's going to close. I was like, yeah, it'll take an hour, by the time we finish our workout it'll be done. And he's like looking at me like, what do you mean? I was like, what do you mean, what do I mean? Like, it's just like, we were both looking at each other like the other one was like a bit slow, like, what are you talking about? Then he showed me the washing machine and I was like, oh, okay. So you have to stand there and like fill the machine up and then drain it, and then when it's finished, do it again, and then so you actually have to be home. Whereas, you know, I have a timer on my washing machine, so I can have like everything in the washing machine at night, set it for like 8 hours later, and the clothes will be washed by the time I wake up. So yeah, that was another thing that was just really, really funny, where we just like were kind of lost in translation with each other. And those things still happen. Like it just happened yesterday about something we like misunderstood, and we both thought that we were right. And we were like, oh my God, what is wrong with you? Like, why are you not understanding? And then we were like, oh, it was a misunderstanding. After washing machines, bathtubs are very rare, and also ovens, like the ovens that I'm used to in Australia, which is like a proper like standalone oven with like the gap with the stove top, so like the burners, the cookers on top. You know, they're a 2-in-1 or 3-in-1 if you've got the grill. So they're very, very rare. What is more common is like a little conventional benchtop oven. So that's what we have. But even that is like still not really common in a lot of homes. Bathtubs basically non-existent, which makes me sad because I used to love having like a bath with a glass of wine or watching Netflix in the bath in Australia to relax. So yeah, that's something that is pretty non-existent. That again is something a little bit different, because baths are basically standard, and ovens are, you know, they're a standard in any home. You would not find a home without an oven. It's something that is just always there. It's built into the home. It's part of the furniture. You don't, like if you're renting a place and you move out, you don't take the oven with you. It literally stays in the home. Baths are also pretty common. So yeah, that was some things I also had to get used to. I think the last thing is probably something that happens the most, and it's very common, and again, it's something that I know happens all the time and I've adapted, but sometimes it still really frustrates me, and that is the Indian timing, where people say that they're 5 minutes away. They're not 5 minutes away. You know, the plumber will be here in 5 minutes, they come in an hour. Sunil will be ready to leave in 5 minutes, he takes 20 minutes. He'll be home in 5 minutes, he's home after an hour. He's just gonna take 5 minutes longer at the gym, but it takes 10 or 15. Like 5 minutes is just like this standard answer, but it means absolutely nothing. It does not mean 5 minutes. So I have now gotten to the habit of asking Sunil, like if he says 5 minutes, I'll say, your 5 minutes or my 5 minutes? I need an accurate answer, and then he'll say, realistically, it's going to be my 5 minutes. So then I know double or triple that. We're basically late to everything. And that was really difficult for me when I moved here, because I'm a very punctual person. We're taught to get to work at least 10 minutes early, because your start time, you have to be at your desk at your start time, not walking through the door at your start time. So you have to be, you know, at my old job, at your computer turned on and ready to like start answering calls right on your start time, not turning on your computer at that time. So we're taught to like get there early or get to a place early. And here people just get there late because no one wants to wait for the other person. So yeah, I really struggle with that, and I still do sometimes, only if we're like late to something in particular. Like if I've said to Sunil, like we have to, you know, this is something that's really important, we can't be late. But if we end up being late, I get really upset. To the point now where like I will tell him 30 minutes earlier. Like if we have to be somewhere at 10, I'll say we have to be there at 9:30, because I know that there's about half an hour that he's going to be late, and then we'll make it on time. So again, it's something that I've had to adapt to, but I've found ways to make it work. But yeah, that's something that's really difficult. Really hard. I think that's everything. I think this has definitely gone on a lot longer than I thought it would, but I did have a lot to talk about. But yeah, there will be a video coming out eventually of things I love about India. But this is more just like, again, a really common topic actually, and a common question I get from family and friends and people who find out that I'm living in India is they'll say, you know, what are the differences between the two countries? What are the culture shocks you've had? Mostly around those. So I wanted to like answer that around my experiences, and you know, also have a laugh as well, because there have been a few situations that are definitely laugh worthy. So if you made it this far, thank you so much. Please let me know what you thought was really funny. If you can relate, maybe you might have had a different experience. Maybe some of these things don't happen where you live in India. Tell me, let me know. I want to know if there's things that are just in Punjab, just in North India, or if they're India all around. I'm very curious because, you know, these have been my experiences mostly in Punjab or North India. Thank you again, and I'll see you next week.